I am Ashley, age 30, and this is the account of my life, ensnared in a complex web of deceit and betrayal. Yet, it's also the narrative of my resilience against manipulation and malice, attaining justice against both my husband and mother-in-law. I encountered Donald, my husband, a charming and charismatic man. Swept away by his affectionate words and promises of a bright future, we fell deeply in love and swiftly tied the knot, believing our love would conquer all. Little did I know that our story would take a treacherous turn, with the source of my torment being Donald's mother, Helen. From the outset, Helen harbored a profound resentment towards me, perceiving me as an intruder in her son's life. She epitomized a type of mother that necessitates deep psychosocial research to understand their behavior, as it was spiraling out of control. For 6 years, Donald had been channeling his entire salary to Helen, leaving our financial stability hanging by a thread. This betrayal cut deep, tearing at the very fabric of our marriage. Despite my incessant pleas for him to cease this, he consistently brushed me off, asserting that his mother took precedence over our budding family. At the time we married, I was only 22, a naive young girl who believed that my husband would eventually realize his mistakes and change due to the depth of his love for me. I now recognize the folly in my thinking. Regrettably, fear held me back from speaking up against both Donald and Helen. They operated as a package deal, their arrogance and hot-headedness forming a formidable force of evil and destruction. It took me 6 years to fully comprehend this. As time passed, tensions between Helen and me intensified. At every opportunity, she belittled me, making it abundantly clear that I was unwelcoming in her house and life, and she considered my presence a privilege that not many could afford. Despite enduring verbal and emotional abuse, my attempts to share my concerns with my husband were consistently rebuffed. His indifference to my suffering made him complicit in the torment, and forgiveness became an elusive notion. The true extent of her animosity became evident when Donald lost his job. Without hesitation, she promptly evicted me, asserting that the house Donald and I occupied was hers. This act crushed my spirit, rendering me vulnerable and homeless. I couldn't fathom how Helen could harbor such intense hatred. In response, Helen callously remarked, "It's not that I hate you, darling, I simply don't care for you. After Donald lost his job, he can't support you anymore. This is my house, and in certain ways, it's always been mine." Confused and hurt, I questioned her motives, arguing that it had been only Donald and me living in the house. Helen's response implied a disruptive shift in the family dynamic and control over household funds. When I dared to challenge her, she berated me, refusing to divulge any details, claiming I no longer had a right to know. As I left, vowing to expose her sinister plan to Donald, she dismissed my concerns with disdain. Calling Donald in desperation, I expected support. However, his response conveyed obliviousness, asking, "What's going on? You seem upset." Overwhelmed, I revealed that Helen had expelled me from the house on the same day he lost his job. Shocked, Donald questioned why, prompting me to disclose the years of financial support he had been providing his mother without regard for our stability. I endured silent suffering, holding on to the hope that you would change while she manipulated you. Don't deny her actions. Someone under manipulation often remains unaware until awakening from the deception. My dear husband, you are still ensnared by her spell. I swear, Carol, if you persist in speaking ill of my mother, you'll not only give her my money but also need to cease your delusions. Recognize that her treatment of me is unjust. I am your wife, and your inaction is disheartening. It's no surprise she expelled you from the house. Excuse me? You heard me. I won't tolerate disrespect towards her and me. Pack up your belongings and leave my mother's house immediately. I couldn't fathom what I was hearing. Had I entered an alternate dimension where demeaning your wife was a gesture of love? Certainly not. Why was he addressing me this way? Without uttering a word, I returned to the house to find Helen smirking, reveling in her new ownership, and my impending departure from her and her son's life. I bit my tongue, summoning all my strength to remain silent. I quietly packed my things, resisting the urge to act violently and risk going to jail. Despite my anger, I was undeniably hurt and confused. What kind of mother-in-law treated her daughter-in-law like this? I sought refuge with a friend, nursing my wounds and piecing my shattered life back together. The despair fueled a determination for retribution against the injustice I had endured. I couldn't let Helen's actions go unanswered, nor could I let my foolish husband Donald off the hook. They both needed to face consequences. My friend insisted I couldn't let these actions go unpunished. She persistently escalated the conflict, compelling me to decide to return to the house and once again express my thoughts to her. Standing in front of Helen's house for the second time that day, A mix of nervousness and determination pounded through my heart. It was time to confront her and ensure that she faced the consequences of her actions. Upon entering, a rush of memories overwhelmed me. This house had been a site of anguish and manipulation, but soon it would become a symbol of my triumph. "What brings you here, Carol? You have no right to be in my house," Helen exclaimed. "Oh, I believe you'll find that I do, Helen. Your actions led me here." Helen's face twisted with surprise and disbelief. She had anticipated my submission and retreat, but little did she know that I had discovered my strength. "Do you think you can just stroll in here and take whatever you want? You're nothing but a parasite, Ashley." "No, Helen. I'm no longer the timid woman you could manipulate. I've grown stronger and I've had my fill of your games. You used my husband's earnings to construct this house, and now it's time for me to take control." "You're delusional if you think you can outmaneuver me." "I've been manipulating people my entire life," Helen retorted. "Manipulation may be your specialty, Helen, but today the tables have turned. You underestimated me, just as you underestimated the power of a woman who has been pushed to her limit." As we exchanged heated words, the tension in the room became palpable. This wasn't merely a confrontation between two individuals. It was a clash of wills, a struggle for justice. "You may have won this battle, Carol, but the war isn't over." "I'll make sure you regret this," Helen threatened. "We'll see about that, Helen. I've spent years living under your shadow, enduring your abuse. But today, I'm reclaiming my life, my happiness, and my freedom. Your reign is over. Have the day you think you deserve." With those concluding words, I turned away from Helen, leaving her stunned and defeated. Walking out of the house, a sense of triumph filled my heart. It was a modest victory, but it marked a stride toward a future free from manipulation and pain. The journey ahead remained challenging, yet fear had ceased to grip me. I had faced my tormentor, and in doing so, discovered an inner strength. A firm believer in the workings of karma, I stumbled upon something advantageous as I left the property. Observing a pair of contractors affixing a conspicuous red auction sign on my mother-in-law's front porch left me intrigued and somewhat uneasy. Was she so hastily auctioning off the place, and if so, why? Given her history of shady business dealings, this unexpected development raised suspicions that her auctioning of the house might be part of a larger scheme. Considering the possibility that she aimed to cover her tracks by selling the house, I returned to my confidant, sharing the new information. She too found the situation suspicious. Fortunate timing allowed me to think of the perfect revenge. Further research confirmed Helen's intention to auction the house the next day, deepening my suspicions. It was clear that I needed to thwart the auction and uncover the shady practices at play. The following day, chance led me to an auction notice for Helen's house. A stroke of fate offering an opportunity to regain control over my destiny. With newfound determination, I meticulously devised a plan. Studying the housing market and calculating my maximum bid, I prepared to confront Helen most unexpectedly. Little did she know that I had emerged from the ashes, transformed by the strength adversity had granted me. Stepping into the auction room, my heart pounded with a mix of nervousness and determination. However, my entrance was promptly halted by the individuals who had made my life unbearable for the past 6 years. "Why are you here? Are you obsessed with this?" one of them exclaimed. "I told you not to be here. I'm still very upset with you." "Yeah, well, the feeling is mutual." "Believe me, I'm here for the auction," I responded, prompting gasps from both of them in unison. "Absolutely, I possess the same entitlement to be present here as anyone else does. If my presence displeases you, feel free to address the matter with the authorities after I file a harassment report. Do you believe you can acquire this house?" "That's quite a stretch, dear. Should I evict her, Mom?" "No need. She's merely making a spectacle of herself. It's evident she can't afford to be here. We'll see about that." We both strolled away to our designated positions, and Helen cast me a scornful glance. Despite the tension, I composed myself, making an effort to seamlessly blend into the crowd. As the auction unfolded, I locked eyes with Helen, a spark of defiance and triumph clearly reflected in my gaze. The auction hall buzzed with anticipation, bidders eagerly fixating on the stage where the sought-after house would soon be up for grabs. Standing there, my heart pounding with a mixture of nerves and determination, I listened as the auctioneer began. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have an exceptional property on the market today. Up for auction is a beautiful mid-century modern house with a storied history. Let the bidding commence." Strategically playing my cards, cognizant of Helen's dubious financial background, I discreetly leaked information about her alleged embezzlement, casting a shadow over the property's reputation. Prospective buyers hesitated, unsure of the associated risks. It was my opportune moment to make a move. "We have a bid of $310,000. Any higher offers?" Silence. Not a single paddle was raised. "Why aren't people bidding more? This is my house," Helen declared. "Looks like your secrets have finally caught up with you, Helen. No one is willing to pay more due to the questionable nature of it all." Helen's face flushed with fury as the reality set in. She was losing control, mirroring the years she spent trying to dominate our lives. I observed a hint of panic in her eyes, a vulnerability that had been concealed beneath her manipulative tactics. "Carol, we need to talk. This isn't right," Donald pleaded. "Save your apologies, Donald. It's too late. You had 6 years to advocate for me, to prioritize our happiness. Now it's my turn to take charge of my own life." "Refrain from your insults, Helen. Your era of control concludes here. This house will stand as a symbol of my triumph, a reminder that." I refused to be silenced or dismissed any longer. When I raised my paddle, the auctioneer started the bidding at $420,000. No one responded. "Okay, $310,000, he declared. Went once, twice, and it was sold. In an instant, a house worth over $1 million was snatched for a mere $310,000, and it was now mine. I couldn't believe it. Disappointed attendees filtered towards the exit, unimpressed by the unexpected turn of events, especially after news of alleged embezzlement had surfaced just before the bidding. Helen's visage twisted with a mix of anger and disbelief. In a desperate attempt to regain control, she unleashed her frustration, asserting that the house held no value and predicting remorse on my part for claiming victory. Responding calmly, I assured her, "Don't concern yourself, Helen. I have plans, and this house is a mere stepping stone to a brighter future. Regrets are reserved for those who've lost everything, much like yourself." With those words, I turned away from Helen, leaving her engulfed in seething rage, screaming and crying, while Donald tried in vain to console her, a scene resembling a chaotic emotional storm. The flavor of triumph surpassed my wildest expectations. Walking away, a wave of liberation washed over me, emancipating myself from the chains of manipulation. Donald, laden with remorse and desperation, attempted to approach me, but I held my ground, impervious to empty promises. "Donald, it's done. I refuse to be a pawn in this toxic game any longer. We're finished. Once I settle in my new home, the divorce papers will be on their way." "But where will we live?" Donald inquired. "Your concerns should shift to the embezzlement accusation because at this rate, both of you might find yourselves in jail." "Carol, reconsider," he pleaded. "Too late. The deed is done. Enjoy your life, Donald, and convey to your mother that anger isn't her best look." In the background, Helen continued to shriek, consumed by fury. I relished every moment. Despite her efforts to address the embezzlement claims, her image had already been stained by her unsavory outburst during the auction. People perceived her as unhinged and aggressive, prompting them to distance themselves. With pride held high, I departed from the crumbling remnants of my past. The confrontation marked a pivotal turning point in my life. In a moment of newfound clarity and strength, I acknowledged the forthcoming challenges with unwavering resilience. While revenge had been the catalyst, it was the pursuit of self-empowerment and happiness that steered me forward. The aftermath of my revenge etched an indelible mark on our lives. As the highest bidder, I now possessed Helen's house, the very place from which she had expelled me. Although this triumph carries a hint of bitterness, it serves as a powerful emblem of my perseverance and resilience. I directed my energy towards crafting a new existence, one where I held the reins of my destiny. Launching a modest business specializing in handmade crocheted clothing, I invested creativity into every intricate stitch. The word quickly spread, and my enterprise flourished, steadily broadening its customer base as the community warmly embraced my creations. Your unwavering love and support proved indispensable as my business prospered. With growth came aspirations for additional properties, and the once dilapidated apartment occupied by Helen and Donald became a constant reminder of their downfall. They found themselves ostracized in the community, trust eroded. Despite Donald's occasional appeals, pleading for a brief respite with Helen, I remained steadfast. As Carol, it was inconceivable to me how everything had unraveled, a consequence of her mother's self-centered and avaricious actions. She should have stood up for me years ago and confronted her mother's transgressions. Their lives spiraled downward in a cascading effect, crashing with force, intensity, and grandiosity, echoing the repercussions of their betrayal across every facet. They teetered on the edge of a trial that promised to expose their deceit, attracting more attention. The weight of their actions bore down heavily, leaving behind lingering emptiness and heightened frustration. Then, one day, Helen herself called, having lost everything and pleading for help. The consequences of her choices had finally caught up with her. I emphasized that my true motivation was seeking justice and reclaiming my power, not merely seeking revenge. The community rallied behind me, offering support and admiration for my resilience, and attracting even more customers. Through this success, I discovered a newfound understanding of my strength and determination. The closure I had yearned for was finally within reach as I surveyed the properties I now owned. Revenge may have propelled me forward, but it was perseverance and resilience that brought genuine fulfillment. Although the past was instrumental in molding who I am, it no longer held sway over my identity. Each day that unfolded enabled me to appreciate the beauty of my ongoing journey, gradually leaving the shadows of betrayal in the past.